The grand hall of the Kelvari Empire stretched endlessly, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 3 artificial suns. Princess Liara stood before the Council of Worlds, her silver skin shimmering under the intense illumination. Her 4 arms were folded in the traditional gesture of submission, though every fiber of her being screamed against what she was about to do. "The terms are clear," Elder Vasek announced, his ancient voice echoing through the chamber. "The human ambassador has agreed. One marriage between our species will seal the peace treaty and end this senseless war." Liara's violet eyes scanned the assembled delegates. Representatives from 12 different star systems had gathered to witness this historic moment. The war with humanity had raged for 5 years, claiming billions of lives on both sides. The humans, with their primitive technology and single sun system, should have fallen within months. Instead, they had fought with a ferocity that stunned the galaxy. "I accept my duty," Liara said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. She was the youngest daughter of the Emperor, trained from birth in diplomacy and statecraft. This marriage was just another political maneuver, she told herself. Nothing more. The doors at the far end of the hall opened, and the human delegation entered. Liara had studied their species extensively, but seeing them in person still felt strange. They walked on only 2 legs, had just 2 arms, and their skin came in various shades of brown and pink instead of proper metallic hues. So fragile-looking, yet they had brought the mighty Kelvari Empire to a standstill. At the head of the delegation walked Ambassador Chen, an elderly human woman with gray hair. Beside her stood the man who would become Liara's husband. Commander Marcus Kane was tall for a human, standing just over 6 feet. His dark hair was cut short in military fashion, and his green eyes held an intensity that made Liara's secondary heart skip a beat. "Princess Liara," Ambassador Chen bowed, a gesture that looked awkward with the human's rigid spine. "May I present Commander Marcus Kane, decorated veteran of the Colonial Defense Force and chosen representative of humanity for this union." Marcus stepped forward and extended his hand. Liara had learned this was a human greeting, though it seemed oddly aggressive to her. She placed one of her hands in his, noting how warm his skin felt compared to her own. "Princess," Marcus said simply. His voice was deep, carrying a weight that seemed beyond his years. "I'm honored to meet you." "Commander Kane," Liara replied, studying his face. Humans were so expressive, their emotions playing across their features like data on a screen. She saw determination there, mixed with something else. Resignation, sadness. "The ceremony will take place in 3 days," Elder Vasek announced. "During this time, the couple will participate in the traditional bonding rituals of both species. The galaxy watches, hoping this union will bring lasting peace." As the formal presentations concluded, Liara found herself walking beside Marcus through the palace gardens. 4 security drones hovered nearby, a reminder that despite the peace talks, trust was still fragile. "I suppose neither of us expected to end up here," Marcus said, breaking the silence. He had removed his formal jacket, revealing the muscled physique beneath his uniform. Humans were physically powerful for their size, Liara had read, with dense muscle fibers and remarkable endurance. "Political marriages are common among my people," Liara replied, her lower arms clasped behind her back. "Though usually not with species we were recently trying to exterminate." Marcus laughed, a short bark of sound. "Humanity has a saying, 'Politics makes strange bedfellows.' I guess this takes it to a new level." They paused beside a fountain filled with liquid mercury, its surface rippling in perfect patterns. Liara watched Marcus from the corner of her eye. He moved with controlled grace, every gesture economical. This was a warrior, she realized, not just a soldier. "May I ask you something?" Liara ventured. Of course. Your military record speaks of numerous commendations, exceptional bravery under fire. Why would Earth send one of its finest warriors as a peace offering? Marcus was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. Because I've seen enough war, Princess. I've lost enough friends. If my marriage to you saves even one life on either side, it's worth it. The sincerity in his voice caught Liara off guard. She had expected bitterness, perhaps barely concealed hatred. Instead, she found a man who seemed genuinely committed to peace. Over the next 3 days, they participated in the bonding rituals. Kelvari tradition demanded tests of compatibility, solving complex puzzles together, synchronizing their biorhythms through meditation, sharing memory crystals that allowed glimpses into each other's past. Through Marcus's memories, Liara saw the war from humanity's perspective. She witnessed the bombardment of Mars' colony, where Marcus had lost his sister. She felt his desperation during the Battle of Proxima Station, where he had held the line with just 12 soldiers against an entire Kelvari battalion. She experienced his exhaustion, his grief, his iron determination to protect his species. "Your turn," Marcus said softly as they sat in the memory chamber. He held the crystal that contained Liara's experiences, preparing himself for alien thoughts and sensations. Through the link, she felt his consciousness touch hers. Where Kelvari minds were orderly, structured like crystalline lattices, Marcus's thoughts moved like quicksilver, adaptable, unpredictable, fiercely bright. She sensed his reaction to her memories, surprise at the beauty of Kelvari Prime, understanding of her duty to her people, and something else: respect. The human wedding ceremony was simpler than Liara expected. Held aboard the Earth ship Normandy, it consisted mainly of spoken vows and the exchange of metal rings. Marcus had explained that the rings symbolized eternity, having no beginning or end. "I, Marcus Kane, take you, Liara of House Theron, as my wife," he said, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd of humans and Kelvari. "I promise to honor the trust placed in us, to work for peace between our peoples, and to stand by you through whatever comes." Liara spoke her own vows, words carefully crafted by diplomats from both species. Yet as she looked into Marcus's green eyes, she found herself adding, "I promise to see you not as enemy or stranger, but as partner and equal." The human tradition of kissing to seal the ceremony had been modified, given the differences in their biology. Instead, they pressed their foreheads together, a gesture of trust in both cultures. The crowd erupted in celebration. Humans and Kelvari mingled, cautiously at first, then with growing enthusiasm. For the first time in 5 years, there was hope. The honeymoon, as humans called it, was spent on Haven Station, a neutral spaceport between their territories. Liara found Marcus surprisingly easy to talk to. He was intelligent, well-read for a soldier, with a dry humor that often caught her off guard. "So 4 arms," he said one evening as they shared a meal in their quarters. "That must come in handy." "It has its advantages," Liara replied, demonstrating by continuing to eat while simultaneously operating a data pad and gesturing expressively. "Though I imagine your single-minded focus serves you well." "Single-minded?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Humans can only truly focus on one task at a time. We've found it makes you incredibly intense when you commit to something. It's one of the reasons you're such formidable warriors." "And here I thought it was our winning personalities," Marcus deadpanned. As the days passed, Liara found herself genuinely enjoying his company. He was unlike the Kelvari males she had known, less formal, more spontaneous, with an emotional depth that was both alien and intriguing. One night, she woke to find him standing by the observation window, staring out at the stars. His shoulders were tense, his hands clenched at his sides. "Marcus?" she said softly, approaching on silent feet. He didn't turn. "Sorry if I woke you. Just couldn't sleep. Nightmares? The memory link had shown her glimpses of his darker dreams. Memories, he corrected. Tomorrow's the anniversary. Of what? The Battle of New Mumbai. First major engagement with your people. I was just a lieutenant then, green as they come. His reflection in the window looked haunted. We thought we were ready. We weren't. Liara stood beside him, uncertain how to offer comfort across the species divide. Among Kelvari, emotional pain was processed through meditation and logic. Humans, she had learned, often needed physical comfort. Hesitantly, she placed one of her hands on his shoulder. The muscles beneath were rigid with tension. I've seen your memories of that battle, she said quietly. You saved many lives that day. Not enough. The words came out rough, laden with guilt. Marcus. She turned him to face her, all four hands now resting on his shoulders and arms. The war is over. We have peace now because of what we're doing. The dead would want us to move forward. He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw something shift in his expression. You're right. It's just... Sometimes the past feels very close. Then we face it together, Liara said, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. That's what marriage means, doesn't it? Even a political one. A small smile tugged at his lips. Yeah, it does. 2 months into their marriage, the first crisis came. A group of human separatists attacked a Kelvari trading post, killing 30 civilians. The peace treaty trembled under the strain as hardliners on both sides called for retaliation. Liara and Marcus were zhao-huaned to an emergency session of the Joint Council. The atmosphere in the chamber was explosive, with delegates hurling accusations across the divide. This proves humans cannot be trusted, shouted Councillor Vorak, his scales flashing angry red. The treaty is a farce. Those were extremists, not representatives of Earth, Ambassador Chen countered. We've condemned the attack and offered full cooperation in bringing the perpetrators to justice. The argument raged for hours. Liara watched Marcus throughout, noting how he absorbed every word, his tactical mind clearly working through possibilities. When Elder Vasek finally called for a recess, Marcus caught her eye and nodded toward a private chamber. What are you thinking? She asked once they were alone. That we're approaching this wrong, Marcus said, pacing with restless energy. Both sides are treating this like a military problem. It's not. It's a trust problem. What do you propose? He stopped pacing, fixing her with that intense green gaze. A joint task force. Human and Kelvari soldiers working together to hunt down the separatists. Show both species that we can cooperate even in crisis. Liara's minds raced through the implications. It's risky. If the mission fails, then we're no worse off than we are now, Marcus finished. But if it succeeds, we prove that the alliance can work under pressure. She studied him, this human she had married for politics, who was becoming something more. You would volunteer to lead the human contingent. It wasn't a question. She knew him well enough now to recognize the determination in his stance. I have to, he said simply. This is what I was really sent here for, Liara. Not just to be a symbol, but to act when action is needed. Then I will lead the Kelvari contingent, she declared, surprising them both. Marcus frowned. You're not a soldier. No, but I am a princess of the Empire. My presence will show we take this seriously. She straightened all four arms. Besides, someone needs to keep you from doing anything stupidly heroic. The joint task force was approved by a narrow margin. Liara found herself aboard a mixed cruise ship, watching humans and Kelvari trying to work together. The first days were tense, with several near fights breaking out over minor misunderstandings. Marcus handled it with a combination of firm discipline and unexpected humor. When a Kelvari warrior complained about human smell, Marcus organized a cultural exchange, where both species sampled each other's food and hygiene products. The resulting chaos broke down barriers more effectively than any order could have. "How do you do that?" Liara asked him one evening as they reviewed intelligence reports in their shared quarters. "Do what?" "Make them laugh together. My people value logic and order. Yours seem to thrive on chaos, yet somehow you make it work." Marcus leaned back in his chair, considering. "Humans have been mixing cultures for millennia. We've learned that sometimes the best way to unite people is to give them something to laugh about together. Shared humor is almost as bonding as shared hardship. And if humor fails?" His expression grew serious. "Then we fall back on what both species understand: honor, duty, and the mission." The trail led them to an asteroid mining facility in disputed space. Intelligence suggested the Separatists were using it as a base to plan more attacks. As they approached, Liara felt the tension ratchet up among the crew. "Remember," Marcus addressed the mixed unit, his voice carrying the authority of years of command. "We go in fast and clean. Minimal casualties. These may be terrorists, but they're still sentients. We're here to arrest, not annihilate." The Kelvari warriors seemed surprised by this approach. Their military doctrine favored overwhelming force. But they followed Marcus's lead, trusting in the human who had earned their respect over weeks of training together. The initial breach went smoothly. The combined unit moved with precision, humans and Kelvari covering each other's weaknesses. Liara stayed with the command unit, coordinating communications and watching Marcus work. He was, she realized, a master of small unit tactics. Every order was precise, every movement calculated. Yet he remained flexible, adapting instantly when the Separatists revealed heavier weapons than expected. "Squad 3, suppressing fire on the upper level," he commanded. "Squad 2, flanking maneuver through the maintenance tubes. Liara, can your tech specialists jam their communications?" "Already on it," she replied, her fingers dancing over the control interface. The Kelvari technology was superior for electronic warfare, and within moments, the Separatists were cut off from outside communication. The firefight was brief, but intense. Liara watched Marcus move through the combat zone like he was born to it, always where he needed to be, always aware of his people's positions. When a young Kelvari warrior froze under fire, Marcus personally dragged him to safety, taking a grazing shot to his shoulder in the process. "Just a scratch," he said, when Liara expressed concern later as the medic sealed the wound. "Worth it to keep everyone alive." The mission was a complete success. All Separatists were captured alive, and the joint unit suffered no fatalities. The news spread quickly through both human and Kelvari space, proof that cooperation was possible. That night, as they traveled back to Haven Station, Liara found herself in their quarters, watching Marcus clean his weapons. It was a ritual she had observed many times now, the methodical way he maintained his equipment. "You could have been killed today," she said quietly. His hands never paused in their work. "Part of the job." "No," she said more firmly. "You took unnecessary risks. That Kelvari warrior would have survived his panic. You didn't need to expose yourself." Now he did look up, meeting her violet eyes. "Yes, I did, because he's part of my unit now. Human or Kelvari doesn't matter. You don't leave anyone behind. Even at the cost of your own life? Especially then." He set down the weapon and moved to stand before her. "Liara, what we're building here, this alliance, this peace, it's bigger than any one life. But it's built on trust. Every time a human soldier saves a Kelvari life or vice versa, we strengthen that trust." She studied his face, seeing the conviction there. "You humans are insane." "Probably," he agreed with a slight smile. "But it's a useful kind of insanity." "Marcus," she said slowly, "I need to tell you something. These past months, working beside you, seeing how you think, how you lead. I've come to respect you, more than respect." He went very still. "Liara, I know this was a political arrangement," she continued, needing to say the words. "But somewhere along the way, it became real for me. You're not just my husband in name. You're my partner, my equal, my friend," he supplied softly. "More than that, I think," she admitted, her silver skin flushing with emotion. Marcus reached out, taking one of her hands in his. His thumb traced patterns on her palm. A gesture she had learned was affectionate among humans. "I've been trying not to think about it," he said quietly. "Didn't want to complicate things. But yeah, Liara, somewhere between the memory sharing and the mission planning and watching you master human chess just to beat me at it, I fell for you too." The admission hung in the air between them, momentous and terrifying and wonderful. "What do we do now?" Liara asked. "What we've been doing," Marcus replied. "Take it one day at a time. Build something real, something lasting. Together." She leaned into him, marveling at how natural it felt, despite their differences. "Together," she agreed. 6 months after their marriage, the fragile peace shattered like crystal against stone. Liara woke to the harsh blare of emergency alarms throughout Haven Station. Marcus was already up, pulling on his combat gear with practiced efficiency. "What's happening?" she asked, her forearms reaching for her own equipment. "Major breach of the treaty," Marcus said grimly, checking his weapon systems. "The hegemony is making its move." The hegemony, a radical faction within the Kelvari military that had never accepted the peace. They believed in Kelvari superiority and saw the treaty as weakness. Liara had hoped they would fade into obscurity, but intelligence reports had suggested they were growing stronger. They rushed to the command center, where chaos reigned. Multiple screens showed devastating scenes across 3 star systems. Hegemony forces had launched simultaneous attacks on human colonies and moderate Kelvari worlds that supported the peace. "Casualties?" Marcus asked Ambassador Chen, who looked older than ever. "Still counting," she replied, "but estimates put it in the hundreds of thousands. They hit civilian targets specifically to maximize terror." Liara felt sick, her own people committing such atrocities. "Where is my father?" "The Emperor is safe," reported General Theric, the highest-ranking Kelvari military officer present. "But the hegemony has seized control of 3 battle fleets. They're demanding the treaty be dissolved and all humans expelled from Kelvari space." "Or?" Marcus asked, though his expression suggested he already knew. "Or they continue their genocidal campaign against both our species," Theric finished. The war room erupted in arguments. Some demanded immediate military response. Others called for negotiation. Liara watched Marcus stand quietly amid the chaos, his mind clearly working through options. "We need accurate intelligence," he finally said, his voice cutting through the noise. "Where is their main force? What are their actual capabilities? Who's leading them?" "General Korvax leads the hegemony," Liara said, recognizing the tactical patterns in the attacks. "He was my father's finest military commander before he turned radical. He's brilliant, ruthless, and knows every weakness in our defenses." Marcus nodded, absorbing this. "Then we need to think differently. Traditional tactics won't work against someone who wrote the book on them." Over the next hours, reports continued flooding in. The hegemony forces were larger than anyone had suspected, with sympathizers throughout the Kelvari military secretly feeding them resources. They had even managed to steal experimental weapons technology. "We're analyzing their attack patterns," Lieutenant Rodriguez, one of Marcus's most trusted officers, reported. "They're not just trying to break the treaty. They're systematically eliminating anyone who supports human Kelvari cooperation." "Including us," Liara realized. "Marcus, we're primary targets. Our marriage is the symbol of everything they hate." Good, Marcus said unexpectedly. When everyone stared at him, he elaborated. If they want us that badly, we can use it. Draw them out, make them overextend. You want to use ourselves as bait? General Theric asked incredulously. Not bait, Marcus corrected. A rally point. Show both our species that we won't be intimidated, that we'll stand and fight together. The plan that emerged was audacious. A joint fleet would assemble at Kepler Station, an old human military outpost recently converted for peaceful research. The location was strategically important. Controlling it meant controlling the main trade route between human and Kelvari space. The hegemony won't be able to resist, Marcus explained to the assembled commanders. They'll see it as a chance to deliver a symbolic blow by destroying the place where our species work together. And when they come, Admiral Reyes of the Earth Fleet asked. We'll be ready, Marcus said simply. The next weeks were a blur of preparation. Ships arrived daily, not just military vessels but volunteers from both species. The attempted genocide had backfired on the hegemony. Instead of driving humans and Kelvari apart, it had united them in shared outrage. Liara worked tirelessly to coordinate the disparate forces, using her royal authority to smooth over conflicts and her growing understanding of humans to bridge communication gaps. She watched Marcus transform from soldier to leader, inspiring loyalty in beings who had been enemies mere months before. I've never seen anything like it, Captain Vorik, a scarred Kelvari veteran, told her. Your human doesn't just command respect, he earns it. When he saved my nephew during the terrorist hunt, word spread through the ranks. Warriors who would have killed him on sight 6 months ago would now die for him. The night before the hegemony was expected to arrive, Liara found Marcus on the observation deck, staring out at the assembled fleet. Human and Kelvari ships floated side by side, their different architectures creating a strange but beautiful tapestry against the stars. Scared? She asked, moving to stand beside him. Terrified, he admitted without hesitation. Not of dying, of failing, of all these people who trust us being wrong to do so. They're not wrong, Liara said firmly. I've watched you, Marcus Kane. You have something rare, the ability to bring out the best in others, to make them believe in something greater than themselves. He turned to her, and she saw vulnerability in his green eyes. I'm just a soldier, Liara. I'm not a hero or a diplomat or whatever they need me to be. No, she agreed, placing all 4 of her hands on his shoulders and arms. You're something better. You're genuine. In a galaxy full of posturing and politics, you say what you mean and do what you say. That's why they follow you. He pulled her close, and she rested her head against his chest, listening to his single heart beat in that strange, powerful rhythm. They had become more than political symbols or military leaders. They had become the living proof that 2 species could unite. Whatever happens tomorrow, Marcus said quietly, I want you to know something. These months with you have been the best of my life. You've made me better than I was. Marcus, she started, but he continued. If things go wrong, if I don't... Stop, she commanded, pulling back to look at him. We survive together or not at all. That's what partnership means. He smiled then, that crooked human expression that she had come to love. Yes, ma'am. The hegemony arrived at dawn, ship time. Their fleet was massive, nearly twice the size of the combined human Kelvari force. At its head was the Dominator, General Korvax's flagship, bristling with weapons including the stolen experimental tech. All units, this is Commander Kane. Marcus's voice echoed across the fleet. You know why we're here. Not for glory or conquest, but to protect what we've built together. Today, human and Kelvari stand as one. Today, we show the galaxy that unity is stronger than division. All ships, prepare for engagement. The first phase went according to plan. The hegemony, confident in their numerical superiority, charged directly at Kepler Station. The defenders fell back in apparent disorder, drawing the enemy deeper into the system. "Now," Marcus commanded. Hidden among the asteroids, a second wing of the joint fleet powered up and attacked the hegemony's flanks. The trap was sprung, but General Korvax was too experienced to panic. The hegemony forces regrouped with frightening efficiency and began a methodical counterattack. The battle raged for hours. Liara coordinated fighter wings while Marcus directed the capital ships, their commands overlapping and supporting each other like a deadly dance. But the hegemony's advantages were telling. Ship after ship of the Allied fleet fell to the superior firepower. "The Dominator is breaking through," someone shouted. "They're heading for the station." Marcus's jaw tightened. Kepler Station housed not just military personnel, but thousands of civilian researchers and their families. If it fell, "All ships, concentrate fire on the Dominator," he ordered. "Sir, we don't have the firepower," Admiral Reyes reported. "Their shields are too strong." It was then that Lieutenant Rodriguez noticed something. "Commander, I'm reading massive power signatures from the Dominator, that experimental weapon. It's not just a gun. It's some kind of planet killer. They're going to destroy Kepler Station entirely." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. The station's destruction would create a debris field that would make the trade route unusable for decades. More importantly, the symbolic loss would shatter the alliance. "How long until they're in range?" Marcus asked. 15 minutes at current speed." Liara saw the decision form in Marcus's eyes before he spoke. "All ships, this is Commander Kane. Continue engagement with enemy forces. The Normandy will handle the Dominator." "Marcus, no," Liara breathed. The Normandy was a heavy cruiser, but against the Dominator, it would be like a shuttle attacking a battleship. "Transfer all command functions to Princess Liara," Marcus continued, already moving toward the bridge exit. "Captain Chen, you have the con." Liara caught his arm with two of her hands. "What are you doing?" "What I have to," he said simply. "That weapon can't be allowed to fire. The Normandy has experimental drives. We might be able to get close enough to do something." "It's suicide!" "Maybe." He gripped her hands tightly. "But if we do nothing, everyone dies anyway. At least this way there's a chance." "Then I'm coming with you." "No." His voice was firm. "The fleet needs you. Our people need you. You're the symbol now, Liara. The proof that peace is possible. Promise me, whatever happens, you'll keep fighting for that." She wanted to argue, to rage against the unfairness of it, but she was a princess of the Kelvari Empire, trained from birth to put duty first. "I promise," she whispered. He kissed her then, a human gesture she had come to cherish, full of passion and farewell. Then he was gone, running toward the hangar where his personal strike team waited. "Normandy is breaking formation," someone reported minutes later. By the gods, they're accelerating directly at the Dominator." On the tactical display, Liara watched the human ship streak toward the massive hegemony vessel. The Dominator's weapons opened up, plasma fire and missiles filling space. The Normandy danced between them with impossible grace, its pilot pushing human technology beyond its limits. "How is he doing that?" General Tharic breathed. "Because he's human," Liara said, pride and fear warring in her voice. "They don't know when something's impossible." The Normandy took hit after hit, its shields flaring and dying, armor peeling away like skin. But still it came on, closing the distance with terrifying determination. "Energy spike from the Dominator," a technician called. "The planet killer is charging." 10 minutes to full charge," another added. On a secure channel, Marcus's voice crackled through. "Liara, we've analyzed their weapon. It has a critical flaw. The charging sequence creates a feedback vulnerability. If we can get inside their shields and detonate our reactor core at the right moment..." "You'll destroy yourselves along with the weapon," she finished. "Better than letting them use it." His voice softened. "Take care of our people, Princess. Both human and Kelvari. They're counting on you." "Marcus." "I—" The words caught in her throat. 3 in her language for concepts humans reduced to 1. "I love you." "I love you too, Liara. Always remember, we proved it could work. We proved peace was possible." The channel closed. On the display, the Normandy made its final run. The Dominator's conventional weapons had shredded the human ship until it was barely holding together, but momentum carried it forward. At the last moment, escape pods launched. Marcus had ordered his crew to abandon ship, staying behind alone to ensure the mission succeeded. The Normandy penetrated the Dominator's shields through sheer determination and precise piloting. For a moment, both ships seemed frozen in space. Then light bloomed. The Normandy's reactor detonated just as the planet killer reached critical charge. The feedback loop Marcus had identified turned the Dominator's own weapon against itself. The explosion was visible across the entire system, a new star born and dying in seconds. When the light faded, both ships were gone. "The Dominator is destroyed," someone reported unnecessarily. "The planet killer with it." The loss of their flagship and General Korvax threw the hegemony forces into chaos. Some tried to rally, but the sight of human and Kelvari ships fighting side by side, united in grief and determination, broke their resolve. Within an hour, the surviving hegemony ships were either surrendering or fleeing, but Liara barely noticed. She stared at the empty space where the Normandy had been, where Marcus had been. The man who had started as a political necessity, become a partner, and ended as everything. "Your Highness," Captain Vorik said gently, "the fleet awaits your orders." She straightened all 4 shoulders, pushing down the grief that threatened to overwhelm her. Marcus had given everything for peace. She would not let his sacrifice be wasted. "Send medical ships to assist damaged vessels from both fleets," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tears, a human gesture she had learned, running down her silver cheeks. "Secure the surrendered hegemony ships, but treat their crews with dignity. And send word to both Earth and Kelvari Prime. The alliance holds. The peace stands." "Yes, Your Highness. And Commander Kane?" "Fell in battle protecting everything we've built," she said simply. "He will be remembered by both our species as what he was, a hero who chose peace over vengeance, unity over division." In the days that followed, as the full story spread, something remarkable happened. The sacrifice of the Normandy and its commander became legend, but more than that, it became a foundation. Human and Kelvari, who had fought together, refused to go back to the old suspicions. The bonds forged in battle proved stronger than centuries of mistrust. The memorial service was held on Haven Station, broadcast to every world in both human and Kelvari space. Liara stood before the assembled multitudes, wearing both her royal regalia and Marcus's dog tags, another human tradition she had adopted. "Marcus Kane was my husband for only 6 months," she said, her voice carrying across the silence. "But in that time, he taught me more about courage, honor, and hope than I had learned in a lifetime. He showed us that our differences make us stronger, not weaker, that together we could achieve what neither could alone." She paused, seeing nods from both human and Kelvari faces. There will be those who say he died for nothing, that peace cannot last. They are wrong. Marcus Kane died to protect the future, a future where human and Kelvari children grow up as friends, not enemies, where our technologies and cultures blend to create something greater than either alone, where the stars belong to all of us, together. We honor him not with monuments or speeches, but by living that future, by choosing cooperation over conflict, understanding over fear, by proving every day that his faith in us was justified. As she spoke, she felt a presence, Not mystical or supernatural, but the weight of shared purpose. Across two species, billions of minds turned toward the same goal. The alliance that had begun as a desperate gamble was becoming something real, something lasting. Later, in her private quarters, Liara held the small recording device Marcus had left for her. She had found it among his personal effects, labeled simply, "For Liara, when you need it." His holographic image appeared, smaller than life, but no less vital. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone and you're probably angry at me for leaving you behind. I'm sorry for that, but I'm not sorry for what I did. Every soldier knows that some things are worth dying for. You taught me that peace was one of them." The image smiled that crooked smile she loved. "I know you, Liara. You're blaming yourself, thinking you should have stopped me or come with me. Don't. This was my choice, and I made it freely. You have a different job now. To be the leader both our species need. To finish what we started. I don't know if humans have souls or if there's anything after this, but if there is, I'll be watching. And I'll be proud of you, Princess. My warrior, my diplomat, my love. Until we meet again, in this life or the next, remember. You showed a stubborn human soldier that there was more to life than war. You gave me something to fight for besides survival. You gave me hope." The message ended. Liara clutched the device to her chest, feeling the weight of leadership and loss, but also determination. Marcus had given everything for peace. She would give no less. Outside her window, human and Kelvari ships patrolled together, guardians of a fragile but growing trust. It was not the ending either of them had imagined when they stood in that crystal hall 6 months ago, but perhaps it was the beginning the galaxy needed. The war hero who chose peace, the princess who chose love. Together, they had changed the course of history, and their story was far from over. 1 year after the Battle of Kepler Station, Liara stood in the newly constructed Peace Memorial, her 4 hands tracing the names etched into the crystalline wall. Human and Kelvari names intermingled, no distinction made between the species in death. At the center, in letters slightly larger than the rest, Commander Marcus Kane. "Your Highness," a gentle voice interrupted her reverie. She turned to see Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of the Joint Medical Research Facility. The woman's eyes held the same mixture of respect and sympathy that Liara had grown accustomed to seeing. "Doctor," Liara acknowledged. "How goes the research?" "Remarkably well. The combination of Kelvari regenerative technology and human adaptive medicine is yielding results neither species could achieve alone." Sarah paused. "He would have been proud to see it." "Yes," Liara agreed softly. "He would have." In the year since Marcus's sacrifice, the Alliance had not merely survived, it had thrived. The shared grief and triumph had forged bonds that no political treaty could have created. Joint colonies sprouted across the frontier, schools taught both species' histories, and marriages like theirs, though none quite as symbolic, were becoming common. Yet Liara felt the emptiness where Marcus should have been. She had thrown herself into the work, becoming the bridge between species that both needed. But at night, in the quarters they had shared, his absence was a physical ache. "Your Highness," her aide interrupted through the communication system. "Priority message from Deep Space Monitoring Station 7. Liara frowned. Station 7 was on the very edge of explored space, where only automated sensors kept watch. "Route it to my office." The message was from Commander Torres, an old friend of Marcus's who now led the Deep Space Initiative. His face on the screen was grave, but tinged with something else. Excitement? "Princess, we've detected something you need to see. An energy signature unlike anything in our databases, moving through uncharted space. It appeared 3 days ago, and seems to be heading directly for Alliance territory. Natural phenomenon? Liara asked, her tactical mind already considering possibilities. That's just it. We don't think so. The pattern is too regular, too purposeful. And Princess... Torres hesitated. The quantum signature has similarities to the explosion that destroyed the Dominator. Liara's hearts, both primary and secondary, skipped. That's impossible. We detected no survivors. The explosion was absolute. I know, but the readings are undeniable. Whatever this is, it's connected to what happened at Kepler. I'm transmitting all our data now. Over the following days, Liara assembled a small team of the Alliance's best scientists. The data was puzzling, an energy mass moving at impossible speeds, phasing in and out of normal space, leaving quantum disturbances in its wake. As it drew closer, the readings became clearer and more impossible. It's using a form of travel we've theorized but never achieved, Dr. Kepler, a Kelvari physicist named after the battle, explained. Folding space-time itself, existing partially in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But what is it? Liara pressed. Unknown. But Princess, the energy patterns, they're not random. There's an intelligence directing this. The Alliance prepared for potential first contact. Ships were deployed, but with strict orders not to appear aggressive. If this was a new species drawn by the quantum explosion, they needed to present a united, peaceful front. The night before the entity was scheduled to arrive, Liara found herself in the observation lounge of the flagship Unity, staring out at the stars. She wore Marcus's dog tags, as she always did, the metal warm against her skin. Couldn't sleep either? She turned to find Admiral Reyes, the human officer who had become one of her closest advisors. The waiting is difficult, Liara admitted, not knowing if we face friend or foe. Or something else entirely, Reyes added. My grandmother used to say that the universe has a way of surprising us when we think we understand it. Human wisdom, Liara said with a small smile. Marcus used to share such sayings. He said humans collected them because they found comfort in knowing others had faced the unknown before. Reyes was quiet for a moment. He was a good man, Princess, the best of us. He was, Liara agreed. Then, more quietly, I miss him. We all do, but he's still with us in a way. Every time a human and Kelvari work together, every time we choose trust over fear, that's his legacy living on. The next day, space itself seemed to tear open. The entity emerged from a rift in reality, a swirling mass of energy that hurt to look at directly. Every sensor screamed conflicting data, as if the thing existed in multiple states simultaneously. It's beautiful, someone whispered, and Liara had to agree. The entity pulsed with colors that had no names, patterns that spoke to something deep in the consciousness of both species. Energy building, a technician reported. It's trying to communicate. The view screen flickered, static resolving into shapes, then symbols, then finally, impossibly, a face. Liara's legs nearly gave out. Marcus? But it wasn't Marcus. Not exactly. The features were his, but overlaid with something else, as if he existed as a probability rather than a certainty. When he spoke, his voice echoed with harmonics no human throat could produce. Liara. The word carried weight beyond sound. I'm sorry it took so long to find my way back. How? She breathed. The explosion. We saw you die. I did die, the entity that was and wasn't Marcus replied. But at the moment of detonation, something happened. The interaction between the Normandy's drive core and the Dominator's quantum weapon, it didn't just destroy us, it transformed us. Us? Other faces appeared in the energy mass. The crew of the Normandy, General Korvax, Kelvari, and humans who had been at the center of the explosion, all transformed into something beyond either species. "We exist now partially outside normal space-time," Marcus explained, his image solidifying slightly as if focusing required effort. "We've seen things, Liara. The shape of the universe, the connections between all living things. And we've seen the future, multiple futures, spreading out like branches from this moment." "Why return?" Admiral Reyes asked, finding his voice. "Because in every future where we didn't, the Alliance fails," another voice said, General Korvax, but without the hatred that had defined him. "My blindness would have doomed us all, but death, transformation, it provides perspective." Marcus's image moved closer to the view screen. "We've become something new, but we remember who we were, and we've come back to offer a choice." "What choice?" Liara asked, though part of her already knew. "To join us. Not through death. We've learned to initiate the transformation safely. To become beings who can truly bridge not just our two species, but all species. To explore not just space, but dimensions beyond physical reality." The bridge erupted in discussion, but Liara heard none of it. She saw only Marcus, changed but still fundamentally him in the way he looked at her. "It doesn't have to be now," he continued. "We have time, all the time that ever was or will be. The Alliance needs you as you are, Liara, but someday when your work here is done—" "You'll wait?" she asked, not caring that the entire bridge was listening. "I'll wait forever if necessary," he said simply. "That's what love means, doesn't it? Even across dimensions?" Over the following days, the transformed beings shared knowledge that advanced both species by centuries. They showed how consciousness itself was the fundamental force of the universe, how matter and energy were just expressions of awareness. They demonstrated technologies that seemed like magic, healing that worked by adjusting probability, communication that transcended distance, energy that came from the spaces between reality. Most chose to remain in their current forms, but some, scientists and explorers, those who had lost everything in the war, chose transformation. They became bridges between the physical and the transcendent, ambassadors to a larger universe than anyone had imagined. Marcus stayed longest, his energy form stabilizing enough to walk beside Liara through the stations and ships of the Alliance. They couldn't touch in the traditional sense, but she could feel his presence, warm and familiar, despite his transformation. "I'm proud of you," he told her as they stood again in the Peace Memorial. "You've done more than I ever could have. The Alliance isn't just surviving, it's showing the galaxy a new way to exist." "We did it together," Liara corrected. "Your sacrifice made it possible." "Not sacrifice," Marcus said gently. "Transformation. I didn't lose my life, Liara. I found a bigger one. And someday, when you're ready, you'll find it too." He showed her visions of what they had discovered. Civilizations that existed as pure thought, realities where time flowed backward, dimensions where love and consciousness were tangible forces. The universe was vast beyond imagination, and they were just beginning to explore it. "How long?" Liara asked. "How long before I can join you?" Marcus smiled, and for a moment he looked entirely human again. "Time doesn't mean the same thing to us now. Whether it's tomorrow or 100 years, I'll experience it as a single moment. Don't rush, Liara. The physical universe needs you. Our peoples need you. Be the bridge we started to build." The farewell ceremony was broadcast across the Alliance. The transformed beings created a display of light and energy that painted new constellations across the sky, visible from every allied world. A promise and a reminder that death was not the end, that consciousness persisted and evolved. As the rift began to form that would take them back to their dimensional space, Marcus appeared one last time before Liara. "Until next time, Princess," he said, using her title with the same gentle teasing he always had. "Keep them safe. Keep them united. And remember, we're not gone. We're just elsewhere." "I love you," she said, not caring who heard. "In any dimension. And I love you. Always." The transformed beings departed, but they left behind more than technology. They left hope. The knowledge that consciousness survived, that love transcended death, that the differences between species were insignificant compared to what united them. Liara threw herself into the work with renewed purpose. Under her guidance, the Alliance expanded, welcoming new species, spreading the message of cooperation. The technologies the transformed had shared created an age of abundance. War became obsolete when resources were infinite, and death was merely transition. Years passed. Liara aged slowly, her Kelvari physiology giving her centuries of life. She watched human and Kelvari children grow up together, saw the first generation that couldn't imagine their species as enemies. She stood as witness at countless interspecies marriages, each one a small echo of her own. She never remarried. How could she, when she could feel Marcus's presence in the quantum foam, waiting patiently for her? Sometimes, in the quiet moments, she could almost hear him, a whisper in the stellar wind, a warmth in the cosmic background radiation. The Alliance grew into a galactic civilization, encompassing dozens of species. The story of the human commander and the Kelvari princess became legend, taught in schools as history but remembered in hearts as inspiration. Love that transcended species, courage that transcended death, hope that transcended war. On her 200th birthday, Liara stood before the Galactic Council, a body that governed 1,000 worlds in peace. Her silver skin had taken on the iridescent quality of age, but her violet eyes remained sharp. "I have served as best I could," she announced. "I have seen our dream become reality. Species that once would have destroyed each other now build wonders together. The peace we bought with blood has become a foundation for something greater." She smiled, thinking of a cocky human soldier who had been willing to die for people who had been his enemies. "But my time in this form draws to a close. There is someone waiting for me, and promises I intend to keep." The transformation chamber had been perfected over the decades. No longer requiring death, it allowed consciousness to evolve, to step beyond physical limitations. Liara entered it without fear, only anticipation. The process was like dissolving into light, every atom becoming pure possibility. She felt her awareness expand, touching dimensions she had only dreamed of. And then, as promised, he was there. Marcus appeared not as the energy being he had been during his visits, but as something more complete, human and transcendent, familiar and infinite. When he embraced her, it was with arms that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. "Hey, princess," he said, his voice carrying the warmth of stars. "Told you I'd wait." "Was it hard?" she asked, marveling at how natural this new existence felt. "Not for a moment," he replied. "I had all of time to explore, but part of me was always here, waiting for you, ready to show you the wonders we've found." She took his hand, or the probability of his hand, and felt complete for the first time in decades. Ready. Together, they stepped into the infinite, leaving behind a galaxy at peace. The Alliance continued to grow, guided by their example and the examples of countless others who had chosen cooperation over conflict. In schools across the galaxy, children learned the story. How a human warrior and a Kelvari princess had married for politics and discovered love. How they had fought for peace and found transformation. How their bond had shown two species that they were stronger together than apart. And in the quantum foam that underlies reality, two consciousnesses danced among dimensions, exploring infinities hand in hand. They had become what they had always represented, the bridge between different ways of being, the proof that love could conquer any divide. The monument on Haven Station bore a simple inscription in both human and Kelvari script. They showed us that endings are just beginnings, that death is just transformation, and that love transcends all boundaries. In the physical universe, their legacy lived on in every act of cooperation, every choice of peace over war, every hand extended across the void between species. And in the dimensions beyond, Marcus Kane and Lyara of House Theron continued their journey, together forever in ways that matter and time could never touch. The warrior who became peace, the princess who became hope, the love that became legend. Their story echoed across realities, a reminder to all species, in all dimensions, that unity was not just possible, but inevitable for those brave enough to reach for it. In the end, they had not just secured peace between two species, they had shown the universe itself a better way to be. And somewhere in the vast web of consciousness that connected all living things, their love continued to shine, a beacon for all who would follow, a promise that no one walks alone, and that every ending is just another beginning in disguise.